This is Citizen Live at 1. Good afternoon and thank you for joining us. I'm Hussein Mohammed. 6 Kenyans injured in the 1998 U.S. Embassy bomb blast in Nairobi have been awarded close to 88 billion shillings in damages. In his ruling, U.S. Judge John Fasiola wrote that the attack on the embassy, in which 200 Kenyans and 12 Americans were killed, was one of the most grotesque and depraved acts imaginable. Another 515 Kenyans who joined the lawsuit filed in a Washington court could also be awarded large sums of money this week after the judge called for a status conference on the cases this Friday. His ruling was the second this year in which those injured or killed in the twin bombings against the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania have been awarded damages. There was drama in Trans Nzoia County Assembly after the county speaker, David Sifuna, hid himself in the office with the county mess in a bid to derail his impeachment. Now, this comes after the speaker was given an ultimatum of 7 days to explain the claims of misappropriation of more than 1.8 million shillings and other allegations laid against him of not conforming to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. And the Assembly had that the Speaker on various dates withdrew money from the consolidated account of the County Assembly account. The members of the County Assembly were forced to break into the Speaker's office to retrieve the important instrument of power before proceeding with the impeachment process. After 1 hour sitting, 30 MCAs voted for the impeachment against 5 who were for the retention of the Speaker, with the House efforts of giving the Speaker time to explain himself being futile as he was not available in office. Transport was paralyzed along the busy Kiganjo-Nanyuki highway following protests by motorists who claimed police officers attached to the National Transport and Safety Authority have been harassing them. The motorists claimed that the officers have been demanding bribes from them. They were joined by residents of Chaka Trading Center along the Nanyuki highway who accused the National Transport and Safety Authority officials in the area of harassing motorists during the protest. The officers attached to the authority had to flee after angry protesters overpowered them. Led by local members of the County Assembly, Stephen Munue and Marete Lingiru, the motorists alleged that the authority has turned into a cartel that is harassing them despite many of them having complied with all the requirements.
Wanakuja Saturday. Ni koti gani nakuwaga ya Saturday? Na imekuwa sasa ni hali ya uzaa kula pesa. Kwa maana wengine wanakuja hapa hapa maisha. Wanasema hizi gari, wanajipiga simu wanasema koti inakuja. Sasa kwa sababu ya watu kuwa manasuka wanaanza kuilizwa 1,000 Sasa ingine hata koti haikuji. Kwa hivyo imekuwa ni corruption ilikuwa mingi sana.
Pupils in Igomiti Primary School in Nyahururu, Laikipia West had a feel of democracy firsthand when they held elections to vote in school leaders in an exercise supervised by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. Martin Munene has the details.
Democracy, a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And here is a democratic process. Long queues, ballot papers, voter registers, election officials, and ballot boxes complete with a president and deputy president label. But the voters here are in uniform. 420 pupils from Igomiti Primary School are electing those who will lead and represent them.
This was very impressive by any standards because some of the children are very young, from class 1 to class 8.
The pupils had to elect 6 leaders, among them a president, a deputy president, an environment representative, a timekeeper, a water and sanitation representative, and all the class representatives. And the election mood was electrifying. And like in any election, there were losers and winners. So after the tallying came what everyone was waiting for. And the results were announced.
The results for president: Purity Kagore, 68 votes. Simon Joroge, 254 votes. And John Dongo, 73 votes. The new president.
The president-elect then addressed his followers, and it was not an easy speech.
People will keep time. People will keep the compound clean. I will make sure our bell is clean all the time.
According to the school head David Ngare, the exercise supervised by the Independent Electoral Commission was a huge success. He added that the idea was borrowed from a partner school in the United Kingdom. Ngare advocated the election of student leaders, saying it was democratic and it allowed students to elect their chosen representatives.
They own the school. They own all the things that they do here in school, right from discipline and environment and taking care of their school very, very well.
And after it was all said and done, Iguamete Primary School had a new set of leaders. The electorate had fulfilled the obligation, but for the leaders, the work has just begun. Martin Monene, Citizen Live at 1.
Students living with disabilities who are pursuing education in special schools within Murang'a County may soon access free education if the county's assembly passes a bill proposed by Murang'a County Governor Mwangi wa Iria. The governor says pupils living with disability deserve free education and that institutions catering for them will be improved as a matter of urgency.
Speaking during the Disability Day observed in Murang'a County, Governor Mwangi wa Iria regretted that persons living with disabilities do not receive due recognition and assistance by both county and national governments. Before those in attendance settled to deliberate on the concerns of the disabled in the county, a preamble danced to celebrate the day. The governor then donated these equipment that will help in the mobility of disabled persons in the county. Commenting on the need for affirmative action to protect the interests of the disabled, Mwangi said that if able-bodied public primary school children are offered free education, the same should extend to special schools where parents and guardians are required to pay for education of their physically challenged children.
If we have to give free education, it must first of all go to the disadvantaged. So the whole program, and I believe we need to start engaging with the national government on that, but as a county government, we are going to give a commitment that our disabled who are in those special schools don't pay school fees.
Further say that Murang'a County government is registering persons with disabilities in the county in order to facilitate issuance of aid materials and to also enlist them in cooperative societies, which will enable them benefit from the county tenders and other local business opportunities. He, however, lamented that despite the Muriranja School for Disabled being the only special school in the county, it had been poorly managed and was in a deplorable state.
Already we are developing a disability bill in the county, and that bill is taking care in a very holistic manner all the needs of disabled, including, of course, prosecution for those people who are hiding their children from assistance. Because we understand the pain that a parent goes through if one has a disabled child. But again, you need to access help.
The governor added that the county government was in the process of improving the center by providing more training equipment and building new classes in order to accommodate more disabled children.
Yes.
Now, as the Kenyan population grows, so does the number of the elderly people in our society. In Radat village, Baringo County, 2 elderly brothers who are over 80 years of age and are still single continue to live in despair as one of them is sick and the other mentally challenged. And as the world marks the International Day of the Elderly today, Safi Godana raises the all-important but often neglected question in society of just who is supposed to take care of the elderly in their sunset years.
It is said that blood is thicker than water, but in this case, the saying does not hold true for these 2 bachelor brothers. They have no kin nearby to take care of them. In the past, taking care of the elderly was an honorable duty, especially in African society, but today, the practice is diminishing slowly as many elderly persons have been left destitute. One will be forgiven for thinking this dilapidated structure is a cow's pen, but no, this is the home for these 2 weak and elderly bachelor brothers, Komen Chepkutu and Elijah. These 2 have no family members to keep them company and take care of them, except a nephew who is now in Form 4 in secondary school, educated by well-wishers. Elijah is mentally handicapped, while Komen, who takes care of his brother, is paralyzed on the right side of the body. Komen struggles to fetch firewood, chop vegetables, and cook with only one hand.
Wazee vile umeona vile wanakaa, tunahofia maisha yao sana. Hata nyumba hii ile wanaishi mnaona vile iko. Wanyama wanaweza vamia hawa.
Getting something to eat is another challenge for these two. Even after the government in February launched the Elderly Social Protection Kitty of 12 billion Kenyan shillings, the money that was meant to take care of the persons aged 65 and above, severely disabled persons, orphaned children, and the urban poor.
Kuna mpango ya serikali ambayo tunajua kwamba huwa wanapatia pesa wazee wa miaka 65 na kuendelea mbele, lakini hao wazee wawili hawakunufaika.
The dire situation for these two octogenarians is compounded by the threat they face from snakes, which are common in the area, especially at night, since the structure they live in offers little protection. So the question begs, as communities grappled with modernization and the challenges that comes with it, whose responsibility is it to take care of the aged in our midst? Food for thought on this International Day for the Elderly. Safi Godana, Citizen Live at 1.
President Uhuru Kenyatta is the chief guest at the official opening of the Nairobi International Trade Fair. The event, which has attracted many local and international exhibitors, is taking place at Nairobi's Jamhuri Park, and we are now joined live on phone from the Showground by reporter Alex Kubasu. Alex.
Yes, Hussein, indeed, we are at the Jamhuri Showground where the president has launched or is about to launch. He's still visiting some of the exhibition sites, and many international and local trade and even industrial companies are displaying their tools of trade and how they work and how they do everything, trying to demonstrate to the hundreds of Kenyans who have arrived here. Even international guests have also arrived, and this event coming hot on the heels of the demand by the International Criminal Court (ICC) at The Hague that the president appears in person. So today he is here to open the show, but the burden of appearing in person also is weighing on him. We shall be on the lookout for his sentiment, maybe if he gives a comment or two. But the show is ongoing. It started, I think, some days ago, and hundreds of people have arrived here. The security is tight amidst the numerous security threats that have been, but the security here is beefed up. Kenyans have arrived in very huge numbers to see some of the exhibition sites, and we shall be able to keep our viewers updated on our Twitter handle and on other social media platforms on what really is happening here, and most especially on what the president is likely to say today in the event that he comments on maybe the ICC issue, or even if he doesn't, what he would say given the new or the renewed Nairobi International Trade Fair. As you know, previously it was called the Nairobi Agricultural Show, but it's changed the name to Nairobi International Trade Fair. So Hussein, we shall be able to keep our viewers updated. Back to you in studio.
Right, Alex Wasu, thank you very much. The county government of Garissa has begun an emergency program to supply food to over 3,000 households in the county to help mitigate the devastating effects of the prolonged drought that has now left tens of thousands of residents there facing starvation. Fiona Kenga has more.
An emergency program to supply foodstuffs such as bags of maize, rice, beans, packets of milk, sugar, tea, cooking oil and water to all the 6 sub-counties of Garissa County is underway as the county administration moves to ensure over 30,000 residents of Garissa who are facing starvation do not succumb to the drought.
In Lagdera sub-county, we are targeting 3,000 households. So these 3,000 households, in average, if we put in average, we are targeting almost 1,500 beneficiaries from the whole of Lagdera.
Governor Nathif Jama flagged off the trucks carrying relief food for immediate distribution to the beneficiaries as the Department of Special Programs activated all its resources and staff for an exercise which is expected to continue until the end of the drought period.
Tumepata maji ya kutosha na chakula ile kiasi ambayo pungufu imepatikana.
Tunashukuru serikali ya kaunti kuchukua hatua hii ya kugawanya chakula kumsaidia wale ambao wako na shida ya ukame.
Already the first consignment has reached Baraki and Malim wards of Lagdera sub-county, where the local residents applauded the county administration's effort to alleviate hunger in the county. Fiona Kenga, Citizen Live at 1.
Now, a 32-year-old tour guide in Lake Baringo is still missing after he allegedly dived from the top of a cliff in Suruk Island into the lake on Monday. The man is said to have been with foreign tourists on the island when he thought that it was time to entertain his visitors, unaware of the danger below. The man allegedly jumped down the cliff of this island, that is also known as the Devil's Island, and sunk into the 18-meter deep side of the lake. Efforts by local divers to retrieve his body have been fruitless, and the lake is crocodile infested. It's therefore dangerous. And the lack of proper diving gear is hampering the search and rescue efforts, and the family and friends of the missing man have requested the government to step in and help them retrace their loved one.
Tuko hapa kwa kutafuta mwili yake, mpaka sasa hatujaliwa kupata, bado tunaendelea. So Kenya tunaomba serikali tusaidie vifaa kama cylinders, pedalers tutumie kwa kutafuta hiyo mwili, kwa sababu sisi dive ndani na tunatumia muda kidogo sana. Tukisama tunachukua kama sekunde kadhaa, na tungekuwa na cylinder sasa tungeshafanikiwa kupata mwili.
International news, a patient being treated at a Dallas, Texas hospital is the first person diagnosed with Ebola in the United States. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, confirmed the positive result Tuesday. The CDC says the adult patient developed symptoms days after returning from Texas from West Africa and was admitted into isolation on Sunday at Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the first patient to be diagnosed with Ebola in the U.S. is being treated in Dallas, Texas.
The bottom line here is that I have no doubt that we will control this importation or this case of Ebola so that it does not spread widely in this country.
The CDC says the patient flew to the U.S. from the West African nation of Liberia on September 19th and began to have symptoms 4 or 5 days later. On September 28th, he was admitted to a hospital in Texas and put into isolation. He then tested positive for Ebola.
So any contact this person had over those 4 days between when they became ill and before they were in isolation, they need to be found, they need to be put in isolation, they need to be monitored for 3 weeks.
Health officials say they are trying to track down any immediate family or people the patient had contact with. Still, they say there is a low risk of the disease spreading, and it's not contagious until someone shows symptoms. Since the patient wasn't sick on the plane to the U.S., health officials don't want people who traveled with him to panic.
We do not believe there is any risk to anyone who was on the flight at that time.
The CDC isn't sure how the patient contracted the disease. As for his condition, they will only say he is ill and under intensive care. In Atlanta, I'm Mary Muller reporting.
We'll still have business and sports news ahead on Live at 1. Stay tuned.